Merry Christmas, Renegade Nation! Before we begin the video, I'd like to give a big shout out to our most recent Patreon supporters, Itogi Kirill, Blazer64, Andrew Larman, Mohamed, Karina Wang, Dark Prime 25, Christian Andre Cavande, Benjamin Salisbury, Jonathan Caleros, Andrew Elliott, Kimber, Fabiola Macias, The Gaming Warthog, Daniel Anderson, Bick Boy, Julius Urado Jr., Christopher Lee Scott, Soren Nielsen, Neil Bender, Austin Price, The Whiskey Laddie, Brian Emeka Njoku, Deshaun Hurd, and Andreas Van Hasht. Thank you very much for your support. And if you want to check us out on Patreon, we would very much like to see you over there. Everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care, guys. All in all, I would say VFX artists know what the hell they're talking about, especially the guys as talented as Corridor Digital. I mean, the Corridor crew, they kill it every time they do it. Every time they do special effects. If you ever have a chance to go check out their short films, Nick, I recommend it big time. Because we watched that, we went and we skimmed through and you saw the thumbnail for The Glitch. And it was like Mario, like super deformed. Yeah, some of their stuff is awesome.
And I swear I've seen something that they've done stuff on before.
You probably have. They've done a lot of like Fallout and Skyrim stuff. You probably, actually, I think they did one Fallout versus Skyrim. And yeah, that was a long time ago. And now they're they're making the high art now, making reaction videos. And we're reacting to those reaction videos. So I guess you could call this Reactception. Because people are just like, wait, are y'all reacting to a reaction video? Yes. You know why? Because people requested this shit. That's kind of the thing. That's kind of the reason why we do it. People request this on our Discord. People request this on our YouTube channel. Some people make requests on Patreon. And yeah, it's fun.
In other words, this is all your fault.
Yes. In other words, this is all your fault. And you should be ashamed. Anticipating all the good stuff that we're going to be reacting to. So, anyway, VFX artists react to Bad and Great CGI #2. This one, this is actually, I think we're going into uncharted territory because the first one I watched was the one that had was like the very first one. But they've done almost like 20 of these. And I'm really excited to see what CGI they pull up in this one. So, I guess, let's just dive into this. Let's get into it. VFX artists react to Bad and Great CGI #2. Let's go.
That's so dumb.
A movie that set the bar for pretty much all CG in today's modern era.
We gotta re-render this. We have 2 weeks. So here's the genius. There's a bunch of other reaction videos online with various professionals in their field talking about cool works of whatever it is that they do, and we wanted to try doing that ourselves here. So this is the second video we've made. We had an amazing response to the first video. Thank you to all of you who subscribed to the channel. If you think of a video you want us to react to, visual effects you want us to break down, please leave a comment.
All right, what's the first video?
Harry is still alive. Case closed.
I do really like that fur. They made that fur look really good.
Yeah. He looks very fluffy.
When we
Yeah,
were
he's a very
analyzing
fluffy
Sonic, I
little
mentioned
rat.
how the green of his eyes was more saturated than the green in the background.
Sure.
Like if Sonic was actually there and you actually filmed him with a camera, your camera wouldn't suddenly be able to arbitrarily capture more saturation on him than the other stuff that's green in the scene. It needs to obey the rules of your camera. In this scene, no colors are more saturated than the other. Like the green on the Bulbasaur's back is the exact same green saturation as the background. The eyes are pushing it a little bit, but even then not that much.
My first reaction to seeing a lot of these shots is that they added fur to a lot of Pokemon that through the cartoons you can't really do fur. I never really considered a lot of these Pokemon to even have fur.
Think of like the artist who had to sit there and think like, okay, which direction do the hairs go? Like your hairs go a direction. There's like there's an evolutional direction to our hair.
There's hairbrushes, like digital CG hairbrushes that you can actually shape the hair with, and then it kind of stays there, and then it kind of reacts to the motion.
Well, it clumps up. It's like in tufts.
Yeah.
It's not just like all hairs individually spaced apart from each other. Like your hairs kind of clump up and
Where do you see that?
armpits.
Yeah,
like right in there. Yeah.
There's slight tonality differences to the hair.
But
really
to be
nice.
fair, hair is something that we've been able to do for over 15 years pretty well. Monsters Inc. was like the first time I remember seeing
Monsters
hair.
Inc. was the
and
first
having,
time
like,
hair was actually a thing.
But you can see how much fewer hairs there are here.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm specifically looking at his left shoulder there. You can see individual hairs.
Yeah.
And if you were to do that today, there'd be probably 10 to 100 times more hairs per square inch.
You might remember in the last video we talked about ambient occlusion. Hair has a lot of ambient occlusion. Underneath your hair, near the roots, most of the hair above is blocking a lot of the light, and that's how you can kind of see the layers of hair on top of themselves. Oh, yeah.
Subsurface scattering on his face there.
Look at the dodgeball shoulders, dude.
It is a dodgeball.
Oh my god.
It straight up has dodgeball shoulders.
Hair's not that's
cool. I didn't notice that.
Oh, I noticed that.
And so the fringes of
When
the
we
hair
originally
on
watched the
Pikachu's
trailer,
tail,
I was just
they're
like, huh.
catching the light in front of Pikachu, and that's
right.
giving it a little edge.
Kind of
there.
looks like a stroke
Yeah.
around the...
So those are the little tips of the hair catching the light, but then the light actually enters the hair and then passes through it after being diffused a little bit. Now that's something that Monsters Inc. was missing, and that's what makes fur look very realistic in these scenes.
They did a really good job of setting up the lighting to work really well with these CG
Yes.
characters. It looks like a 1 or 2 point kind of light setup. You have the light in the far back blasting it, right? And that's causing the shadow down here in the foreground. And then you have like an overhead kind of fill. For me, some scenes are easier to light in CG if it's like a 1 point light.
Yeah.
It just looks better.
Very specific directional lighting helps a lot for creating CG scenes.
Oh, yeah. One of the most badass
So
scenes
here's the genius
ever.
of this scene. One of the things that makes stuff look real is something called radiosity or global illumination. It goes by a lot of different names, but basically it's the way light bounces. I'm shining the flashlight on my hand, and it's lighting up the side of his face. In CG, to get that, you have to simulate a ray coming out of the light, hitting a surface, and scattering and bouncing off. But you have to do it many, 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 many times to get all the scatters and get your sampling of the environment. And that's a lot of math. They can't do bounce lighting back then. There's no option to do bounce lighting. So what do? They set their scene at night with a single source of light, and that's it. Notice how the dark parts in the scene, where the headlights aren't hitting the T-Rex, it's just pitch black. So you don't have to worry about bounce light. Great, problem 1 solved. Good job, everybody, you're geniuses. Number 2, by making it rain, they can have specular lighting all over the T-Rex and make it feel like it's reflective, but all they have to reflect is a white spot. Notice you can see the specular on his legs, on his toes, on the side of his thigh.
He's just shiny as a whole.
He's just shiny, but all you're showing for reflection is basically a blob of white.
Pretty much
And it's
here
the rain.
onwards, all of this right here is a real T-Rex. They have the perfect reference. That's an animatronic T-Rex head. If that, they have actual footage of that they can match the CG one too. If they didn't have that, they'd be like, how dark do we make it? How reflective do we make it?
So good, so scary.
Yeah.
Jeff
That still
Goldblum,
scares
you
the shit out of
madman,
me.
you hero.
Also, I think this is the first shot where the camera's actually moving through 3D space.
Oh yeah, 3D
Dude,
tracking.
That was a very challenging shot right there. This shot in particular, this was the hardest shot in the whole movie. I talked about this in my TED Talk, but there's a single frame.
Oh, what are we gonna see?
So the T-Rex obviously grabs the Velociraptor, but for one single frame that is in the final movie.
I'm waiting for this. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Oh, there it goes. It's gone.
For one frame,
Boom,
the
gone.
Velociraptor is completely missing. I think what happened is that the 3D models, the actual files, they sent to the cache to be rendered.
Dude in the background just like,
It's like, whoa!
I didn't know that. Well, I know that there's one movie that came out here recently, X-Men Apocalypse, during the one scene where like Magneto is like holding using his powers to like move something forward or pull something. I forget which scene it is, but right before the scene clips over to the next scene, there's one frame where literally all of the material that he's moving, that CG, just disappears. Just disappears off screen, and the only thing left there is Magneto. And I remember seeing that in the final cut, and saw it like a quick flash. I'm like, wait, what? I went back and I looked, and I'm like, there's literally nothing there. There's literally nothing there. It's just like, whoa.
Must have just somehow like dropped in an empty frame during editing or something.
Probably. I mean, the editor didn't catch that, but oh well. But look at this guy. He's just like, what?
For whatever reason, on that one frame, the Velociraptor model disappeared.
They got so lucky it happened then.
Yes.
If it would have happened anywhere other, dude, it would have been so bad.
Dude, they're so lucky it wasn't the T-Rex model that
I
I'm missing.
know.
Like, we gotta re-render this. We have 2 weeks. and it takes 2 months to render.
I would love to find out more information about why that Velociraptor is missing. If you search this up in any YouTube clip, it's gonna be there.
Unlike the Starbucks cup, which is going to be gone forevermore from Game of Thrones. How did that get through?
Not from our video. We've still got it. That's one thing I am so happy we still got. The Starbucks cup in our Game of Thrones reaction. Yeah. It's just sitting there, just sitting there right on the right on the table. And actually I think we talked about it after after we were done reacting. It was like, was that Starbucks cup?
I don't remember us catching it for sure. But...
God.
Okay, so now we're talking about Jurassic World, the end of the first Jurassic World movie.
HD.
And at a technical level, the effects here are certainly better than they were in Jurassic Park. So why do people think that the effects are worse?
In Jurassic Park, these raptors were real. When you see them walking too, they were real. So that's what they're going up against.
Yeah. The practical
They're
effects.
worse because they're doing all CG as opposed to some practical effects that were fucking awesome.
Stan Winston,
I think growing
man.
up, this was like
Stan
the scariest
Winston.
moment of any movie I'd ever seen.
So that's real.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's two things that you get with real. One is motion.
I think
Looks a lot more realistic.
I can't tell.
Which is, like, so when you're animating stuff by hand in CG, it can go anywhere. The second one is acting. Those kids are acting so much better with real pots and pans falling on them and real velociraptors sticking their heads out of things. Like, it's so much easier to like get into space when you have an actual dinosaur on set versus like, all right, look at this man with the green ball.
So you want to imagine it's where my fist is. Yeah. And you guys want to focus right here.
It's like, oh, it's a dinosaur. It's like, even if you're Chris Pratt, it's still tough to do.
If you actually like,
Well, even okay, they're talking about that, and the one thing I'm thinking about is when Ian McKellen on the set of The Hobbit almost had a mental breakdown because he was the only actor that was on set, and he was being told to pretend that this person's here, or pretend this is there, or pretend this and pretend that, and he was just sick of it at one point. He was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And when you make a professional actor, one of the best actors of all time, Ian McKellen, just say, nah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. You've officially reached the point where your actors are sick of doing this, are sick of acting like there's something there when there's nothing there. Look, this is why I love Chris Nolan, because Chris Nolan always ensures most of the time for whenever personal shots are happening with their actors that there is something there. That's why the one scene where the Batwing appears in The Dark Knight Rises and you see that thing flying overhead, part of it is CG, but the fuselage and the other stuff that's on it is there. You see, Chris Nolan uses practical and then adds more in on top of it.
Yeah.
Now, the only film that he went more practical with, and I'm really upset that he didn't do more with in terms of portraying the amount of people out there, was Dunkirk, because Dunkirk had over 400,000 people on the beach. You look at the film, there's less than 10,000 people on that beach. Less than 10,000. I mean, what you can do is you can double them up, reverse them, or double them up. Just do something to make it look like there's 400,000 people on that beach, because that's what was really there. That's my only caveat with Dunkirk. Other than that, Dunkirk's pretty much almost a near perfect film. But actors can only do so much, dude. They can only do so much without a reference there, without something realistic there. I mean, hell, even the people who acted in Stuart Little, they had a laser. They had a laser that they could follow, but instead, they're just like, okay, so I want you to look where my fist is right there, and I want you to pretend something's there. Okay. Oh my gosh. Versus, versus them putting a, someone in a suit, a raptor suit, and getting them right up in their face, and then blowing wind out the nostrils to make it look like they're snarling at them.
Yeah.
That's good shit. But instead here, you can tell, look at Chris Pratt. He's looking above the raptor.
Yep.
He's looking above the raptor instead of at the raptor. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
Pause on any of these frames, they all look really good.
What's he doing? Is he trying to be friends with the dinosaur?
Yes.
This is alien.
Have you not seen it?
No.
For so much of this, you can just tell that it's computer generated, regardless of whether or not it's technically good.
Yes.
And because you can tell that it's fake, you can tell that the people that you're watching are not actually in any real danger, and your suspension of disbelief is a little shattered.
Yep, it's very interesting. With a smaller budget, Jurassic Park was crunched into choosing their VFX shots very, very wisely, and they didn't hold shots for longer than they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
It was real. They treated it as if it was real.
And it looks more real because of that.
Exactly.
Whereas this is, they can do whatever they want, so they're going artistic with it and creative.
Yes.
But as they go artistic and creative, it's becoming less real.
Correct.
Remember that moment from Jurassic Park 3 when the Velociraptor was sitting on the airplane and was like, "Hey, Alan!"
Wait, I thought you guys were kidding. Wait, this is a real thing? I need to see this.
Yeah.
This is good. Just
I remember
let
this.
play.
This
This
sucks.
is the Twilight Zone?
Hey, Alan.
I've had that dream before. No, like I wake up in a car and no one's driving.
Alan.
Did he just whisper, "Hey, Alan"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Alan.
so dumb.
Well, it's because someone's trying to wake him up, and he's like, "Hey, Alan, wake up."
They didn't even like the mouth to like move from both syllables.
Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan. Oh, here we go. Will Smith, Genie.
You really don't know who I am. Genie, wishes, lamb, none of that ringing a bell.
Ooh, that's a little
That
weird.
right there. Everyone had a problem with that shot
I
for
have a
one very
problem with
specific
it.
reason, because it's obviously Will Smith, but everything about it looks wrong.
Well, he looks like
and
a
no one can
minotaur.
exactly tell why.
He looks like a minotaur. Like, look, why he's floating. Look at him. He looks like a minotaur. Why is he walking? Why is he taking steps?
He's not walking, he's floating.
But it looks like he's like, hey, it's me.
He's just floating
Like-
along. We just can't see the bottom half of him.
That's because my brain puts him as a minotaur. Like, he's a minotaur right there.
Can you figure out why it feels wrong, Ren?
What it comes down to is that it looks unnatural, and it's triggering a very specific part of our brain that identifies faces and humans. All the check marks are listed as like, that's obviously not just a person, but Will Smith. And it's not just the fact that he's blue. It's his kind of proportions. His face kind of looks a little too small for that size of a head. His neck looks a little too thick. And I think a lot of that is mostly driven by the actual camera, focal length, and placement and whatnot.
Amazing CG body there. Like,
Yeah.
Hot CG body for the
hot
next one.
CG body. The muscles on his back, like they flex and they move and they indent, they pull the skin with
He's
them.
yoked, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible artistry. It's great. It's amazing. And then from the front, his CG body still looks good.
Yeah, on
But
a
it's
tech-
like, what
it's like
happened
the
is
shadows. I think
there's a
it's like the
face
shadows.
from a man who does not have that body, kind of like just pasted in the center. It almost feels like the blue doesn't match. And this might be a color grading thing where they just put a mask here and brighten his face.
No, it's the CG face. 100% of that face is CG.
Okay, but like his face is actually a little bright compared to the rest of him. It's like, oh, we need to be able to see his face here, so I'll just draw a mask here and brighten it up.
Oh, like a power window?
yeah,
Sort of
they
like
call it
color grading thing?
Power window,
It's
but
like-
it's actually throwing off the lighting now because
It's a
his face should be in shadow like his left pec is. His face should be about as bright as that pec in the shadows, but it's a little bit brighter.
That does look a lot better.
Everyone reacted
Yeah.
super negatively to this specific shot, myself included. But then they released a follow-up trailer a few weeks later. See, this looks great.
Because
Yeah.
it's lit well, you're
It's
not
lit
showing
well.
too much.
And
mean,
also,
honestly-
the proportions are specifically thrown off. He looks super huge, so it's triggering our brains a little bit less than if he was trying to fool us completely.
Honestly,
Genie can't trick me. The genie can't trick me.
a big thing is the lighting. Like in that shot, there's a nice like edge light, and there's a clear, defined key light. And it's giving his face volume and like character. Versus the other shot is like there's just ambient wash, like a little bit of light
Yeah.
to the side.
This looks
and so they had
fine.
nothing
This,
to really. Show
this goes
you.
back to what we were talking about earlier with the very specific directional lighting.
Yeah.
Like this, that
That
looks,
looks-
that looks
great.
solid. That looks really good.
Is this a lighting
It's-
issue?
I think it's a lighting issue. I mean, it's a little bit.
Yeah, CG monkey though looks pretty legit.
It looks great.
See, he looks fine right there.
Something I noticed here. So his abs, right? There's actually a little bit of discoloration there, almost as if it was body paint. And this is actually a tricky thing in visual effects. Is a lot of what we understand about reality in movies is not actual reality, but what we've seen in special effects. So, like for example, when people get shot in movies, we expect there to be a big pop and dust and blood. And that's not what happens when people actually get shot. When you're doing visual effects, you're not always going for reality. You're going for a simulated special effect. And therefore, you'd have slight discolorations and things like that. You end up making it look more real because it actually looks like real makeup as opposed to an actual blue person.
Ah, yes. This film inspired so many VFX artists for years after.
Yeah.
Terminator 2, a classic. The movie that set the bar for Jurassic Park and pretty much all CG in today's modern era.
Yeah, not a wasted minute. Literally not a wasted minute.
Oh, there it is.
Sick. Dude, that's so sick.
So this is actually mostly a compositing thing.
Yeah.
This isn't like a computer generated 3D model or anything. This is straight up classic After Effects type stuff.
Dude, that one right there, like, frames back.
It's pretty incredible, honestly.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of
really
a
cool.
VFX history lesson to give you guys here. With this
It's
shot,
simple but
ILM
cool.
kind of pioneered morphing. And morphing is actually a pretty simple thing. Basically, you're just doing a distort, and as you're distorting, you're doing a crossfade. And after this, people went crazy for morphing. It was like, morphing was the hot new thing for a couple years for visual effects shops. Now, the reason I bring this up is because there's a sequence of morphs in Michael Jackson's black and white music video that are the best morphs I have ever seen in my entire life. You're not even like able to really see the crossfade of these morphs. In fact, I've taken it up a notch where it's not crossfading, but actually doing like a pixel color change.
There, that was a practical shot. Did you see that?
Where
Her
they
hair
drop her
drops.
hair. Yeah. So they have like they have enough this choreographed enough they need to drop her hair to like help cheat the morph.
Whoa.
It's also important to note that they're not doing an overall crossfade uniformly. They're doing splotches and bits of crossfading at different intervals through time. First it was the hair coming down, then parts of her face, parts of her shoulders, etc. It all goes inconsistently.
That ponytail?
Whoa.
They're really using the choreography to their own good here.
Yeah, but that's just a straight morph right there.
Yeah.
And that one too. And that hair is flawless. How they transferred from that hair is nuts.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was
The best ones are the ones they hide with actual motion, like turning their head like that.
Turns out it's all practical, it's just one person.
And thanks for watching. If you want to see us review any other sort of movies or TV shows, leave a comment suggesting what we should see next. But in the meantime, try clicking that subscribe button.
Just restocked our store with some of our most popular classic designs. So those of you who know what's up, you can look good while hitting that subscribe button. There's free returns, so if it doesn't fit you, whatever, send it right back. We'll take it.
Okay. All right. I remember, the Michael Jackson black or white video.
I don't think I've actually ever seen that video.
Really? Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's a pretty good song too. Although I will say, there's actually a parody version of it on In Living Color back in the day. Tommy Davidson played Michael Jackson, and the song, instead of black or white, it's Am I Black or White? This is back when Michael Jackson was starting to go like really pale, and it's just like, I asked the question and I don't know the answer. It's like I just wanna know, am I black or white? And then he like gets up on top of this. He like goes out in the streets. The music stops, and he's like, he gets mad that the music stopped, but he doesn't stop dancing, and he like keeps grabbing his crotch and everything, just keeps trying to dance, and then he picks up a baseball bat and starts beating the car like he does in the music video, and then he's like, oh, boom, pow, and then he gets off top of the car, and then two police officers come up and like grab him, and they're like, all right, buddy, that's enough, you're coming with us. And then, as he's being carried away, Tommy Davidson looks at the camera. He's like, "Oh wow, I guess I really am black."
Wow.
it was a good punchline. And then, of course, they had another one that was Jim Carrey as like a parody of Michael Bolton, and he was singing "When a Man Loves a Woman." He's like, "When a man," and then his head explodes. Some of the funniest shit ever. Oh, God, I miss In Living Color. They weren't afraid to take risks. And when they fired the Keenan Ivory Wayans and Damon Wayans, I got pissed. Because that's when the show like went downhill hard. But, well, what do you expect? But, yeah, that was VFX artists react to bad and great CGI, too. I mean, I did not know the Velociraptor thing. I did not know about that. It disappearing for one frame. Yeah, I did not know about that. And also the whole thing with Michael Jackson, Am I Black or White, the morphing and all that. I didn't know that that song the morphing thing was really was in Industrial Light and Magic. ILM, the same people that worked on Star Wars, unbelievably. I didn't know that they had such a hand in creating like the morphing techniques that special effects shops just kept taking in later and later on. And now morphing is as simple as point and click on most special effects programs out there, especially After Effects. After Effects, it's easy. So yeah, I'm very happy that we were able to watch this. Overall, what did you? Were there any in this that like made you go, "Whoa"?
Not really that I can remember. Like, I do agree with him on the genie thing. Like, I think there was just a lighting issue with that original shot of him that made him seem really, eh.
Yeah, it was off-putting. And you see, our eyes, most of the time, we can discern what is real and what isn't. And as special effects have gotten better and better, the uncanny valley is very slowly going away. And right now, they're saying we're at a crossroads with the uncanny valley because they're saying, in certain cases, people can't tell. You know, one movie that made me question the uncanny valley and made me question, like, is this real or is this not? And it was Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Have you ever seen that?
When I originally saw shots of it, I thought that, yeah, but like the more I looked at it, the more I was like 100% sure.
Later on,
like everything was CG. And
well, yeah, dude. Later on, though, on, as our eyes have matured and we've seen more stuff as we've gotten older. Of course, we can discern what's real and what isn't. Yeah. But back in the day, I remember my dad watching part of it, and my dad was just like, Are those real? Are those real people? Because especially Aki Ross, the lead actress in it, dude, she's the first character ever to like be on a she's the first ever fictional character to be on the Maxim Hot 100 list, and because her character design was so good, and I'm just like, well, shit, that's awesome, and of course, that film, I really wish they would have been able to do more with that, but because it wasn't a success here in the States, they couldn't justify more of them, which sucks because I really think conceptually they could have done a lot of interesting stuff with it.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, I guess. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that's going to do it. This was VFX Artist Reacts to Bad and Great CGI 2. If you want to check out more from Corridor Crew, there's a link to the original video down below. We're subscribed to them. Feel free to check out all of their VFX Artist Reacts videos. We're probably going to do more of these the more we go by, because I guarantee you they're just going to keep getting requested left and right, and we're just going to have to keep going with these because I like these. I like looking at these, and I like seeing the intricacies of like what went into these effects. I'd actually like to get Jacob involved in these because where he's into filmmaking and all that, I'd love to get his perspective on it.
Yeah, he would like stuff like this. Probably.
I think so. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. So until next time, signing off, I'm Nate.
I'm Nick.
We will see you all in the next one, everybody. Peace out.